Elder sister, please help Fair. Fair doesn't want to marry that terrifying cripple. A delicate, choked voice buzzed beside her ears, her body being shaken nonstop. Ji Yulan suddenly opened her eyes, only to realize she was seated in the place of honor in the main hall. Beside her was Ji Yufei, whose face looked several years younger, tender and lovely. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she shook Ji Yulan's arm pitifully. The moment Ji Yulan saw Ji Yufei, boundless hatred erupted in her eyes. She abruptly stood up, flung Ji Yufei's hand away, and stared at her coldly. Elder sister, what's wrong with you? Shock and grievance flashed across Ji Yufei's face, but when she met Ji Yulan's icy gaze, a chill ran through her entire body, as if she had been frozen solid. Ji Yulan had never looked at her with such a terrifying expression before. Ji Yufei was at a complete loss. Instinctively, she looked toward the lower seat, where a gentle-looking woman in her 30s, dressed plainly, was sitting. The woman gave Ji Yufei a reassuring look before turning to Ji Yulan and speaking. Eldest Miss, Prince Xiao will soon arrive with his betrothal gifts. If third Miss truly marries him, she will surely be beaten to death. Can eldest Miss really bear to send third Miss to her death? She is, after all, your biological sister. Betrothal gifts? Ji Yulan suddenly calmed down. Something felt wrong. Wasn't she already dead? She lifted her gaze and looked around, her heart jolting. This was clearly the minister's residence where she had grown up. Only then did she realize how familiar this scene was. 5 years ago, when Xiao Lihan came to deliver the betrothal gifts, this was the very moment she had agreed to marry in Ji Yufei's place. Could it be? Had she been reborn back to 5 years ago? If you're so unwilling to marry this prince, then go smash your head against a pillar and die. Suddenly, an icy, bone-chilling voice came from outside the hall. A man dressed in a dark brocade robe, wearing a Ghost King mask, sat in a wheelchair and was slowly pushed in by guards. Behind him were lavish red chests filled with betrothal gifts. Ji Yulan looked up at the sound. The instant she saw him, her heart tightened painfully, sorrow and anguish flashing through her eyes. Xiao Lihan, her husband. Seeing him come with the betrothal gifts, Ji Yulan was completely certain she truly had returned to 5 years ago. To the very day she had been coaxed by Ji Yufei and concubine Lu into agreeing to the substitute marriage. Because of that decision, everyone mocked Xiao Lihan for being fit only to marry an ugly woman like her, turning him into a laughingstock for the common people. Unconsciously, Ji Yulan touched the jagged scar on the left side of her face, her heart aching faintly. Elder sister. Fair is scared. Ji Yufei clutched Ji Yulan's sleeve fearfully, glanced at Xiao Lihan's terrifying mask, and hurriedly shrank back, trying to hide behind her, too afraid to look. Ji Yulan looked at Ji Yufei's affected, pitiful act, a trace of coldness flashing in her eyes. She forcefully yanked Ji Yufei away, slammed the table, and shouted sternly. Ji Yufei, kneel. Ji Yufei and concubine Lu were both badly startled, staring at Ji Yulan in disbelief, unable to react. Even Xiao Lihan, who had been exuding a chilling aura, lifted his deep, icy eyes to look at Ji Yulan on the main seat, a hint of unfamiliar emotion flickering within them. Ji Yulan had never scolded Ji Yufei before. Ji Yufei's beautiful eyes instantly filled with tears as she said, deeply aggrieved. Elder sister, did Fair do something to anger you? Ji Yulan's gaze was sharp as a blade as she barked. I told you to kneel. Did you hear me? Think carefully about what you just said. Kneel immediately and apologize to Prince Xiao. Only then did Ji Yufei remember earlier she had called Prince Xiao a cripple. Recalling Xiao Lihan's brutality, hesitation and fear flashed across her face. Just as she hesitated, a powerful kick struck the back of her knees. Thump. It hurts. Ji Yufei crashed to the ground on both knees, crying out in pain. She stared at Ji Yulan in disbelief, her face twisting slightly. This ugly, despicable Ji Yulan, how dare she? Ji Yulan ignored the fleeting resentment on Ji Yufei's face and reprimanded her righteously. Yufei, Only today do I realize how overly indulgent I've been, allowing you to grow so arrogant and spoiled. Prince Xiao defended our country from a young age, guarding the borders against foreign enemies so we could live in peace. He sacrificed both his legs for us, yet how did you speak of him? Being able to marry him is a blessing earned over several lifetimes, a blessing others couldn't obtain even if they begged for it. Apologize to Prince Xiao immediately. Something flickered in Xiao Lihan's eyes, deep as an ancient pool, as he looked at Ji Yunlan's face, half breathtakingly beautiful, half terrifyingly scarred. Ji Yufei stared at Ji Yunlan in shock. Why you? Elder sister, what do you mean by this? You clearly said last night that you were willing to marry in my place. And now you want me to marry this cripple. Slap. A crisp, loud slap echoed through the hall. Third miss. Concubine Lu cried out, staring at Ji Yunlan in shock. Eldest miss, she's your own sister, how could you hit? Impudent. Ji Yunlan cast a disdainful glance at Concubine Lu. This is no place for a concubine to speak. Then she turned back to Ji Yufei, her voice icy. Yufei, I told you to apologize. Did you hear me? If you still refuse to admit your fault and dare to talk back even one more word, I'll have the family punishment carried out. The family punishment was a barbed whip. In her previous life, Ji Yunlan had taken that punishment for Ji Yufei, nearly losing her life. At the thought of it, fear flashed through Ji Yufei's eyes. Seeing that Ji Yunlan was clearly not joking, Concubine Lu hated her to the bone but could only persuade softly. Third miss, hurry. Hurry and apologize. The master will be returning in a few days. That last sentence was a reminder. Once the master returned, the minister's residence would no longer be under Ji Yunlan's control. Ji Yufei clenched her fists tightly, malice flashing in her eyes. The burning pain on her face constantly reminded her that Ji Yunlan, that ugly woman, had slapped her. She glanced at Xiao Lihan, the masked cripple, bit her lip, and forced herself to say, I am sorry, Prince Xiao. Fei spoke carelessly and said the wrong thing. After speaking, humiliation filled her eyes as she turned toward Ji Yunlan and shouted, I apologized, but I will never marry Prince Xiao. If you force me to marry him, I'll die for you to see. Wutu. After yelling that, Ji Yufei burst into tears and ran off. Concubine Lu called out third miss and hurriedly chased after her. Only Ji Yunlan and Xiao Lihan were left behind. The hall fell silent. The man in the wheelchair was someone she had loved in her previous life, and also one of the people she felt most guilty toward. In this life, she would never approach him again, never drag him down to such a miserable death. Her eyes dimmed. She coughed lightly in embarrassment and said, Prince Xiao, please forgive her. My third sister had no intention of offending you, but she truly lacks proper conduct. Forcing her to marry you would only harm you. On the contrary, fourth sister Linger has been well-behaved and sensible since childhood. She would be a perfect match for your highness. I refuse. Xiao Lihan's cold, emotionless voice cut her off. Ji Yunlan looked up at him in surprise. Did he insist on Ji Yufei marrying him? But she saw Xiao Lihan's deep eyes fixed steadily on her as he said, Didn't you say you would marry this prince in your sister's place? I agree,